Okay, issue 4 on the campaign trail.
President Trump and Joe Biden escalated their campaigning this week. At a rally in Pittsburgh, President Trump called the election a, quote, matter of economic survival, unquote, for Pennsylvania. Attempting to use their lead in the polls to broader advantage, Mr. Biden's Democrats are focusing on 5 states, which they hope will also secure Senate wins for the party. Also, the Commission on Presidential Debates announced the topics for next Tuesday's first presidential debate. On deck are the Supreme Court, the coronavirus pandemic, voting integrity, and issues of race and violence. Moderated by Fox News' Chris Wallace, the debate will be held at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio.
Kelsey, what strategy do you think we will see President Trump employ as he tries to use this debate to necessarily claw back some of the polling lead that Joe Biden has over him at the moment?
Well, I know some of my fellow panelists will disagree with me, but President Trump is an excellent debater. He is the reason a lot of Americans will tune into this debate. Of course, there are so many issues going on in this election that it does feel different than any in my lifetime, certainly. But I am very curious to see if Joe Biden is able to handle himself on the debate stage. We know a lot of his appearances so far. Some of them have been canceled. He's gone completely dark at times. Others, he appears to be reading from a teleprompter. We really haven't gotten an opportunity to see the real Joe Biden. I'm not even sure President Trump knows what to expect on that front. You know, will Joe Biden show up, and will he be able to engage in a real debate, or will he struggle to make his points as we've sometimes seen him do while he's actually the few live TV interviews he's participated in?
Eleanor.
I don't think Kelsey's gotten the memo about now you're supposed to shift to exaggerate Biden's debating skills, because frankly, the Republicans, and Pat's been very good at it, lowering expectations for Biden's performance. There were 2 town hall meetings last week, Biden at CNN and President at ABC. The reviews after Trump's performance, where he remained seated through the 90 minutes, were that it was a train wreck. He didn't know how to answer questions from undecided voters who were challenging him. He resorted to claiming that he has a health care plan that's ready to go. He even patted his jacket to suggest the plan was right there. He doesn't have such a plan. It doesn't exist. Biden was in Scranton, Pennsylvania, high comfort level, performed well, stood for 90 minutes, even engaged with a gentleman he recognized as a retired police officer. All Biden has to do is look at the camera, talk to America, lay out his plans, and he'll be fine.
Pat.
Well, I think what Eleanor just said, if he looks at the camera and lays out his plan and does an excellent job at it, I think he will tend to hold his present lead. But I really agree with Kelsey here. I think the conservatives, I mean, we've been watching on TV, Fox News, a lot of us day after day after day, gaffe, verbal footfall, and people are going to be watching that. So I remember when Ronald Reagan, I mean, his second debate with Walter Mondale, after the first, he looked like he lost his memory for a second. Everyone focused on that totally. And I think that's going to be the central focus here. That and the race and violence issue, which I guess Chris mentioned he's going to have, but which many Democrats are objecting to because they think it tilts the issue and the argument in favor of Trump.
Clarence, is one of the challenges that perhaps conservatives are worried about here, that if those issues of street criminality and protests arise in the debate, as we expect they will, President Trump might go beyond simply presenting himself as the candidate of law and order and present a perhaps less pleasant vision of America that plays to Joe Biden's, campaign narrative of "I'm the uniter, you know who I am."
Well, it's already happening, Tom. We've seen President Trump just this past week declared New York, Seattle, and Portland to be anarchist municipalities. A new designation that Attorney General's come up with at the president's insistence, evidently. I mean, Trump is really pushing this hard because he is using that issue of law and order to try to distract us from the rising coronavirus statistics. When he's asked about coronavirus and the 200,000 deaths so far, more than 200,000 now, this past week, he turned away from the camera and turned to another reporter and said, what's your question? I mean, it was so blatant that he's trying to avoid having to address that issue. I'm glad to see that with all the predictions about how Kenosha and the rest of Wisconsin was going to just turn in favor of Trump after their riots, that didn't happen. With all the emphasis and the strength with which Trump has been pushing that crime in the streets, law and order issue, another echo of Pat's former employer, Richard Nixon, it just hasn't taken hold like before. And I'm happy about that. But I want to see us focus on issues, whether we're talking about law and order or whether we're talking about coronavirus. But the voters right now seem to be more concerned about their medical safety, if you will.
You know, you can say the same thing for each of these candidates. Neither of them has to, quote, win the debate. They just have to avoid losing it.
Right.
The only thing that matters is if there's that catastrophic moment that gets replayed many times over. And I think you're going to see Trump try to get under Biden's skin, probably by bringing up family scandals and about his son. And I think you're going to see Biden try to get under the president's skin. Neither of them are going to look attractive if they get overheated. So you know, these debates turn on that little moment. And you know, I said a couple of weeks ago, it's a crapshoot for both men. They're both well prepared. They know what they're going to say. I don't know how Trump reins himself in for 2-minute segments. At a rally in North Carolina the other night, he spoke for over 100 minutes. And the poll report listed all the topics he talked about. There were probably 50 topics. Everything from the kind of stone used in buildings to which Fox News hosts he likes the best. So he tends to do stream of consciousness, and I don't think that works in a debate like this. He claims he's not doing any mock debates, and you know, they're firing questions at him. And if he doesn't answer in a controlled way, I'm not sure there's anybody in that White House left who would even challenge him.
You know, Kelsey, Eleanor referenced there the Hunter Biden, and we now know from a report Senate Republicans produced this week that Obama administration officials did raise concerns to the vice president about Hunter Biden's activities on some of these trips, which give off at least the smell of perhaps taking advantage nepotism, even if not measured in business reality. How much do you think that will be a vulnerability for Joe Biden, or how much do you think Joe Biden is somewhat insulated because of the perception that the Trump administration has its own problems with cronyism?
Well, look, that is political cronyism at best. It's criminal activity at worst. Of course, the press hardly paid any lip service to what was in that report. I believe it was $3.5 million that Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, received from a Russia-connected Ukraine figure while Joe Biden was vice president. Of course, if this type of transaction occurred under the Trump administration, it would be leading the news instead of being buried and glazed over. I think President Trump has enough to work with without relying on the Hunter Biden corruption crutch. What I really would like to see him do instead is press Joe Biden on the policies that he supports. We don't have clarity where exactly he stands on the defunding or reallocating of money from the police. We don't know where exactly he stands on the filibuster. We don't know where exactly he stands on packing the courts because, again, Joe Biden does not participate in many media interviews. So that is what I think a lot of voters will be looking for to get from these debates.
All right, let's bring Pat in.
Tom, I think with regard to Hunter Biden, I'm astounded at all the money that guy got and involved himself in all these schemes with the Chinese, $1.5 billion for one of these hedge funds. He's got millions of dollars from the Russian. He's on Burisma's board. I got to give the guy credit. He milked this thing for all it's worth. However, I don't think it goes to Joe Biden unless and until you find out that Joe Biden did something for someone he shouldn't have done and influenced the decision. If that comes out, then Katie bar the door. But I haven't seen it yet. And I don't really know that anyone really believes that Hunter Biden is your, Chamber of Commerce Man of the Year.
Okay, Eleanor, you were itching to get in.
The New York Times headline was that the Senate report shows that Biden did nothing wrong. That report was a big dud. Maybe it's different on Fox News, but they didn't find anything. But the questions about Hunter Biden are legitimate. Biden should have an answer and he should move on. My son has had difficulties. Lots of American families have these same kind of difficulties. I love my son. Amen. Move on. So, but Biden tends to get ruffled when his family is brought up. So I think I'm going to be looking to see whether he can keep that under control. He can show anger, he can show emotion when he defends his policies. He can say to the president, how could you let 200,000 people die without having any kind of a national plan? How can you call people who gave their lives for this country suckers and losers? There are lots of places where he can show emotion and anger and will not be Sleepy Joe. And that's all perfectly legit.
All right. Let's bring Clarence in to cap us off.
Well, if President Trump wants to go toward money that Hunter Biden made because of connections, his father, Vice President Biden, has plenty to talk about with President Trump's connections and how much money he's made off the Trump Hotel, et cetera, et cetera. It's really this new revelation about the Obama administration being concerned about Hunter Biden. Go out in the street. I'll be happy to go out in the street with you, Tom, and just ask people, hey, did you know Hunter Tom, that the Obama administration was worried about Hunter Biden's connections? They're going to say that they thought it was old news.